Welcome back to SpeakUp at FOM, Real Conversations, Real Impact. We've talked about the intersection of medicine and society, but now let's look ahead. The future of medical education is evolving really fast, and with the rise of AI, robotics, and cutting-edge technology, we have to ask, can AI outperform doctors? What lies ahead for medical training and practice? AI is already transforming industries, and healthcare is no exception. But what does it mean for medical professionals? Will AI make doctors better, or does it risk replacing the human touch that defines medicine? And how should medical education adapt to keep up with these changes? So Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, famously said AI is not going to take your job. The person who uses AI is going to take your job. That's a bold statement, I feel, and it definitely applies to medicine. So, Prof, how does UM Medicine see AI in healthcare? Do you think AI will create more efficient doctors, or is there a risk of losing the human intuition that is so critical in patient care?
AI is going to be our partner. And I think this is what that has been said. We had a conference recently, a meeting, a regional meeting, and people have talked about AI as a tool in healthcare. Mm-hmm. A lot have been said about AI. So number one, what your thought? AI has been used to scare doctors into thinking that they're going to lose their job because AI will take over everything. And in theaters, in the arts, in cinemas and movies, we've had stories in which AI takes over and rule the world, such as Terminator, right? So we live with those kinds of stories. So, and those kinds of stories, while it is imaginative, it actually tells us of a possible future of AI taking over. Now, in reality, will that happen? I personally think no. I think that AI is a partner, the partner to healthcare, and we need to use it as a partner. So what happens when you choose a partner in real life? That partner must be someone that elevates you. If you choose the correct partner, okay? It will be somebody that elevates you. And I think AI will elevate you. Why not? Because AI never sleeps, doesn't get tired, will have millions of data, and therefore is very data driven. It's very data driven. It's very fast, right? And we know this already. We know some of this. And let's say robotics actually give you precision. So I would agree with what you said. A person who does not use, a healthcare worker who does not use AI will be replaced with a healthcare worker that uses AI. Definitely is going to happen. But it is similar, if you want to say, academics that do not use PowerPoint or some kind of presentation tool and still want to present off-cuff or use a transparency presentation will be removed because you are not moving with the times, right? And academics, again, not using interactive audience response, for example, when that ability is there, how are you going to make things, how are you going to create active learning for the students, for example? So I think AI is not different from many of the other tools that have come up over the years and how we've incorporated them into our daily practice. So AI is going to be our partner, and with all partners, it's going to make us better. But what does it mean? What does it mean now to our future graduates? What it means is, while AI, let's say you have formed a diagnosis. You look at the patient, you look at the data, and you say, I think it is diagnosis A. And then you feed it into the AI, and the AI is going to look at all the data, all the x-rays, everything, and AI is going to say, I concur it's diagnosis A, for example, but it can be B or C, for example. But you are now armed with a confidence because this AI is not limited in the knowledge that you have. This AI is open to all the knowledge of all the specialists in the world. That is now helping you to make that decision. That's strong. That's a very strong partner. And you should use that partner, because that partner is most likely correct compared to your limited knowledge, whatever it is said. But now what happens? You now have made diagnosis A. AI concurs diagnosis A. The patient is the one now in the important stakeholder that we are serving. The patient needs to be told. And the patient needs to be told, especially if it's a bad diagnosis. The patient needs to be told with openness and yet empathy. The patient needs to be told in a proper manner. The patient needs to be told all the different aspects of the treatment that's available. That has to be done in an empathetic manner. That has to be done as a human being to another human being. As somebody who is giving care to a person most vulnerable. Now that's what we need to teach our future generation. In future, you do not have to be so clever. In future, you may not have to be so clever.
Because we have another partner to complement us.
Because your partner is there to help you with it. But you, and I've said this a few times, you must have the heart for this. If you are not interested in talking to patients, if you are not interested in sharing their journey and sharing their pain, if you're not interested in looking after a person when they are at their most vulnerable, then you shouldn't be doing this. And that's what we need to train our future doctors and healthcare workers. That's why when you were talking about cultural competency, you need to understand that the patient knowing a bad diagnosis may reject your treatment at first go because they want to do traditional treatment. How do you negotiate that with the patient? AI can't do that. You have to do that. Right? AI will just say the patient best outcome would be right? But you need to talk to the patient and negotiate with them, understanding their religious belief, understanding their traditional belief, understanding their culture, understanding their finances, and all that. That's the work of a doctor, and AI will never take that away. In fact, we need to train all our future healthcare workers to have that ability, that skill, including the cultural competency that you were talking about just now, that we were talking about just now. So I hope that I've made it clear what I think.
Yes, it's
so
very
it's a
clear.
partner.
Yeah.
But what the information means is, again, what we make of that information, how we impart as the person looking after a vulnerable population.
Which leads to my second question on how we do things in the traditional sense. Can traditional medical education keep up with this rapid evolution of new treatments, new technologies, new discoveries? Because I'm always wondering, is there a time limit to medical training? At what point does what we've learned become outdated? You know, can traditional medicine, that like what we'll be doing now, keep up with this rapid evolution?
We have to keep up, but we have to keep up in a way that makes sense. So when you talk about medical education and you talk about curriculum, you shouldn't be focusing on what is current. You should be focusing on principles of how we treat, how we diagnose, principles of communication. What are the essence of what we want to impart in medicine? Principles of decision making. We're not telling them the answer, but the principles of how you get to the answer is important, because that doesn't go wrong. The processes, the script that you need to have. right? How you approach, again, very evidence-based. Now, if you continue to be evidence-based, data-driven, and you understand the principles of the important pathologies and the important physiology and pathology and anatomy, if you understand that, then you can't go wrong because your foundation is strong. And when you have good foundation, you build and you build. That's why I said information is never static. It's layering and layering of information. But if your foundation is strong, you can build God knows how many stories and it will be okay. So medical schools shouldn't focus on getting them to know the latest knowledge because that changes, you are very right. But the processes, how you think, your foundation, your principles of how you get to that answer needs to be strong.
Right.
And that's what we focus on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the other aspects, like you said, the humanities aspect, the narrative aspect is all part of the journey now that we actually ensure in our students.
You've talked a lot about, throughout these sessions today, you talk a lot about data-driven approaches, right? And that's being seen through the shift from patient-centered to data-driven, with whatever decisions that we're making is always driven by data. And doctors, our future doctors, my worry is the over-reliance on technology. Can we still train them to think critically, or are we at risk of losing that essential problem-solving skill that defines a great physician or researchers at the faculty?
Yes, I do get where you're coming from. I think when you rely on even now, when you look at ChatGPT and it's freely available, or even DeepSeek that they're talking about now, it's freely available. And you can even ask it to, okay, let's not talk about medicine. You can ask it like, I'm planning a trip to Japan, Tokyo. Where should I go?
Write me an itinerary.
Yeah, write me an itinerary. Where should I go? What's the best time? And it'll be able to teach you to do that. And compared to a time, I came from a time where if I need any information, I actually physically have to go to the library, physically take out a book or a journal, physically read it, right? Read it and photostat it to bring it back home to my room in campus.
Not just one book, couple of books.
Yeah. So when information is hard to get, there is an essence that you tend to remember it more, perhaps because of the effort. So, and I think this is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Information now is so easily obtained, right? Knowledge is so easily obtained. Will you then rely on it and not remember? You lose the ability to
be critical.
Think critically. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, we are talking now about ChatGPT and DeepSeek, but you have to remember Google had been around for a very long time, and Google actually had that ability, maybe not as efficient, but actually had that ability to do that. So we've always talked about generations of healthcare students that we have now that wants instant gratification, instant knowledge. It's had always been available in their fingertips. Now, does it make us less critical? I think it will if we don't put in the research component into our program. And when I mean research component, I don't mean making them do a research, but aspects of research, the critical thinking of research, the literature review, the thinking of hypothesis. If we continue to do that for our students, they will not lose the ability to critically think.
That's the very basis of science.
They will build on it. Yeah, that's the foundation. They will build on it. And understanding that for every thought you have, every question you have, there's going to be enough evidence to say what you're saying is true and enough evidence to say what you're saying is not true. How to critically appraise those evidence and then think of how I can now answer my question and think of a methodology that will answer your question to the best of your ability. Yeah.
Right.
And if you continue to teach that and make it the basis, that's why I said evidence-based had always been something Faculty of Medicine had, in their teaching, in their culture. So if we continue to do that, I think we don't have to worry about our future generation being not having critical thinking.
We go back to the foundation. We go back to the
go
basics.
We go back to that. Yes. And again, using AI as a partner to help us in doing some of these things. But the job still needs to be done. The processes still need to be followed. And we make sure that they do that as they go through the program. Yeah.
My final question with regards to AI, how do we make sure our researchers at the faculty, and even myself, stay ahead of the curve without constantly feeling like we always need to chase the next big breakthrough? We're always being pressured to be innovative. We always feel pressured to, to come up with the next breakthrough.
It is always difficult. I think that's always difficult because people always want the next best thing, because there is always a fear of missing out, right? There's a fear of missing out. And we say this
FOMO.
FOMO. I think this generation talks about fear of missing out, but I think we too, as academics, we have that fear of missing out. But I've always felt if you are doing something just because it's the next great thing, but you're not doing it with passion, there is no meaning. There is no meaning to it. So when you do things with passion, but you follow the correct scientific steps and you bring the heart and the passion into it, no one is not going to feel you and see you. And I think that's very important. So no, be in the know. Knowledge is important. Information is important. Awareness is important. Be in the know of all these things that we're talking about, the next great things that you're talking about. But at the same time, really see where your passion is and approach it in a way that you can still bring your passion and your heart into whatever that you do. So that would be what I will, advise. I think whatever you do, if you don't have the passion, if you don't wake up in the morning feeling, I want to do this, then you really need to assess what you're doing and how you can do things better. Reflection is an important tool for anyone in academia. Must always reflect on what you're doing and how it impacts you personally, your own growth, and at the same time impact your own community and the society. So I think reflection is very good.
That's
very
a really
important.
great take-home message for all the listeners.
And
wake up feeling passionate.
Yes, definitely. Wake up feeling passionate. Yeah.
So you were saying, Prabyang?
No, I think this is not only in medicine. It's in everything you do. Yeah.
In life.
Yeah. As long as you're doing, but of course you need to do good things lah. I'm not saying I don't want you to feel passionate about doing bad things because that's not good. Don't do that.
So I think the future of medicine is exciting, but it's also complex, and balancing technology with human connection, keeping medical training relevant, and preparing doctors and researchers for a future we can't fully predict. These are big, big challenges. And that brings us to the end of our very first episode of Speak Up at FOM. We've covered so much today, from the decolonization of medical education, lessons of COVID-19, the future of medical education and AI in healthcare. Prof, before we wrap up, I have one final question for you. Why should people listen to us? Why should people tune in to the Speak Up at FOM podcast?
Because we're number one. I think people do things for different reasons. But I feel that no matter what reason that you can think of, arming yourself with information is very important. Now, you may not choose to listen to me as the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University Malaya, but we will have other very, very key leaders in Malaysia. So, and we are giving this to you free of charge. So why not? Yeah, increase your knowledge. Be it because you need to know what is coming up. Be it you need to know what's the foundation of medicine, as how I've been talking today. Be it to know how we are going to train future doctors that's going to be looking out for you and looking after you. Be it because we're going to talk about common regional and national interests in healthcare, and be about talking about policies.
We're talking about realities, your realities
Yes,
as well.
your reality. And what we are arming you is with this information that you can then take away and think of how you can create impact in your own society and your community. We at Faculty of Medicine, we are looking at healthcare not as us doing it alone. We are looking at us looking after the society together with you out there as part of this big ecosystem. So come join us, come help us. Let's do this together. And one of the ways you can do it is listen to us at SpeakUp at FOM. Real conversation for real impact. Thank you.
That's a fantastic note. And thank you, Prof, for sharing your insights and for leading such important conversations on medicine and education. Of course, thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you enjoyed today's discussion, make sure to follow Speak Up at FOM for more real conversations with experts, true leaders, thought leaders, and also change makers. Stay curious, stay engaged, and we'll see you in the next episode.